I remember the silence of my home in Charleston, a quiet companion since Sarah passed. My life had settled into a comfortable rhythm of solitary routines. Coffee on the piazza, a stroll through the Battery, evenings with a book and a glass of bourbon. I was a retired attorney, 68 years old, and though my days were peaceful, there was an ache, a dull throb of absence where a family should have been. Sarah and I, we never had children. My cousins were scattered, distant, mostly names on old holiday cards. I was, frankly, quite alone. Then Eleanor arrived. It was a letter, initially, quaintly formal, asking if I was the Edward Sterling who resided at such and such address. And if so, she believed we shared a distant familial connection. My mother sighed. She suggested a great-grandniece, perhaps, or something equally convoluted. Curiosity, more than anything, led me to reply. She was everything my quiet life wasn't. Vibrant, articulate, with eyes that sparkled like sunlight on the harbor. She spoke of her family, a once prominent lineage, now tragically reduced to ashes by a recent financial collapse. Every heirloom, every ancestral home, every last penny gone. She painted a picture of dignity lost, of a heritage evaporated. My heart, still tender from years of unspoken longing, immediately went out to her. Here was someone, I thought, who truly understood loss, but also someone I could help. A connection, a thread to a family I hadn't known I missed so deeply. She moved into my guest wing a few weeks later, after several charming visits and long, heartfelt conversations. The house, usually so still, hummed with a new energy. Her laughter echoed in the hallways. Her scent something floral and light lingered in the drawing room. She was respectful, never demanding, always offering to help, sharing stories of her childhood, weaving a tapestry of a family I recognized from old photos in my mother's albums. I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't known since Sarah's illness. I was not just an old man in a big house. I was a patriarch, a protector, restoring a lost legacy. I saw myself giving her back the family she had lost, and in turn, she was giving me one I hadn't realized I lacked. It was a profound hope, a second spring in the autumn of my life, blooming against the backdrop of ancient oaks and the salty air of Charleston. I finally felt connected, truly connected, to something larger than myself. I threw myself into helping her. As an attorney, the idea of reclaiming what was rightfully hers, even if it was merely symbolic, resonated deeply within me. We spent countless hours in my study, a room once reserved for legal briefs and historical texts, now filled with Eleanor's carefully constructed narratives and my own fervent desire to help. She brought binders of documents, old deeds, faded photographs, intricate family trees, all meticulously assembled, or so it seemed. Her story was compelling, detailing how a corrupt financial firm had seized her family's assets, leaving them destitute. She wasn't asking for charity, she insisted, only justice, a chance to reclaim a small part of what was hers. I helped her draft letters, researched archaic property laws, and even reached out to a few old contacts in the legal world, leaning on favors to navigate the complex maze of her claims. It was exhilarating, a return to the intellectual challenge of my younger days. I found a renewed sharpness in my mind, a purpose that had been missing. Eleanor would sit opposite me, her eyes wide with gratitude, her hand often reaching across the desk to squeeze mine, a silent thank you. "Oh, Edward," she'd say, her voice soft, "you're too kind. I don't know what I would do without you." I felt a warmth spread through me each time she said it. She was becoming my anchor, my confidant, the daughter I never had. I went a step further. I believed in her, in our shared lineage, in the justice of her cause. I decided to establish a trust in her name, a modest sum initially, to help her stabilize while her larger claims were being pursued. It wasn't an inheritance. It was an investment in family, a gesture of support, to ensure her dignity was restored. My own lawyer, Mr. Davies, a man of meticulous detail and dry wit, raised an eyebrow or two. He asked a few pointed questions about the extent of our relationship, the lack of ironclad documentation beyond Eleanor's own, but I brushed his concerns aside. I told him he was being overly cautious, a typical lawyer, always seeing the worst. I knew Eleanor. I knew her heart. I believed in her story. He just didn't understand the depth of our connection, the sacred bond of family. I saw myself as a guardian of her heritage, and my trust in her was absolute, blind perhaps, but born of a genuine desire to mend a broken past. Life continued, a new rhythm settling into the old Charleston house. Eleanor was, in many ways, indispensable. She managed the household staff, organized my appointments, and infused every day with a lightness it had lacked. I felt younger, invigorated by her presence. The small moments of unease, the fleeting thoughts that occasionally pricked at the edges of my contentment, perhaps a slightly too insistent question about my financial holdings, or an overly enthusiastic reaction to a mention of an investment, were easily dismissed. My mind, so eager to believe, simply rationalized them away. She was worried, naturally, about her future, about our shared future. We were family, after all, and family looked out for one another. That was what I believed, with all my heart. The first sign that something was truly amiss wasn't a whisper, but a physical jolt. I had a fall, a clumsy misstep on the polished mahogany stairs, a dizzy spell that sent me tumbling. Nothing serious, thankfully, just a broken wrist and a bruised ego, but it was a stark reminder of my age, of my increasing fragility. Eleanor was there instantly, her face a mask of concern, her hand steady as she helped me up. She insisted I see a doctor, fussed over me with a tenderness that warmed me deeply. For a while, she seemed more like a guardian angel than a distant cousin. But the fall, and the subsequent recovery, meant I was less active, less involved in the daily minutiae of my life. Eleanor, always efficient, stepped up even more. She handled my correspondence, paid bills, and started accompanying me to appointments, ostensibly to help me with my arm. But soon, she was speaking for me. I remember one instance, at the bank, where she smoothly interjected before I could answer the teller's question about a recent transfer. She said, "Edward prefers to consolidate his accounts for easier management, don't you, dear?" I simply nodded, a little confused, but too tired to question her. It felt, at the time, like she was protecting me, taking the burden off my shoulders. Mr. Davies, my lawyer, started to express his concerns more openly during this period. When I informed him I wanted to update my will, incorporating Eleanor more significantly as a beneficiary and establishing a larger, more comprehensive trust for her, he grew visibly uncomfortable. He asked me, very gently, if I was absolutely certain of all the details of her lineage. He mentioned that some of the documents she provided seemed to be photocopies of photocopies, difficult to trace to original sources. I remember snapping at him, telling him he was becoming cynical in his old age, that Eleanor was family, that she had endured enough without his suspicions. He simply nodded, a grim set to his jaw, and told me he understood my intentions, but that for the sake of clarity and to avoid future disputes, he would need to conduct a thorough verification of her claims. I felt a flicker of annoyance, but then a sense of reassurance. He was just doing his job, ensuring my wishes were carried out properly. Little did I know, his diligence was about to shatter the comfortable world I had built around Eleanor and me. The call from Mr. Davies came on a Tuesday afternoon. The phone rang with an urgency that pierced the usual quiet of my home. Eleanor was out, running errands, she had said, and I was alone in the drawing room, reading a historical novel. Mr. Davies' voice was strained, heavy with an emotion I couldn't quite place. He asked me to come to his office immediately, without Eleanor, saying he had something of extreme importance to discuss. My heart began to pound a slow, anxious rhythm. When I sat across from him, his usually calm demeanor was gone, replaced by a tight-lipped seriousness. He laid out a folder, thick with documents, not Eleanor's faded copies, but crisp, official-looking papers. He began to speak, slowly, deliberately, each word a hammer blow to my chest. Eleanor's family, the once prominent lineage she claimed, simply did not exist as she described. The ancestral home she wept over? A fictional address. The financial crisis that ruined her family? Fabricated. The intricate family tree she'd shown me, with its delicate script and flourishes? A meticulously crafted forgery, assembled from public records of defunct families and old society pages, cleverly interwoven with real, but unrelated names. He showed me records, irrefutable evidence. Eleanor Sterling was not her real name. She was Eleanor Vance, a professional con artist with a long history, a rap sheet stretching across several states. Her modus operandi was chillingly precise. Target wealthy, lonely seniors, usually widowers with no direct heirs, spin a tale of lost kinship and misfortune, gain their trust, and then systematically liquidate their assets. The trust one had so eagerly set up for her? A vehicle she was using to funnel my money into her own accounts, legitimized by my own legal expertise. The lawyers I'd contacted for her case? They were all part of her elaborate network, or, more horrifyingly, genuine professionals who had been fooled into lending credence to her lies. The worst, the most gut-wrenching betrayal, was yet to come. Mr. Davies revealed that she had been actively attempting to declare me mentally incompetent. She had subtly influenced my doctors, twisted my occasional forgetfulness into signs of severe cognitive decline, and was preparing to petition the court to gain full control of my estate. My fall, my moments of confusion, my increasing reliance on her, it had all been meticulously orchestrated, then weaponized against me. I felt the blood drain from my face, the room spinning. The woman I had brought into my home, the family I had embraced, was not just a stranger, but a predator. The warmth I had felt, the purpose, the rediscovered hope, it all turned to ash in my mouth. Despair, cold and absolute, enveloped me. I had not given her a family. I had merely given her the keys to my entire life, and she was poised to lock me out of it forever. The days that followed were a blur of cold, hard truth. The police arrived, quiet and efficient, their questions cutting through the fog of my shock. Mr. Davies was a rock, handling everything with a steady hand, guiding me through the painful process. He helped me gather the evidence, the meticulous records of financial transfers, the discrepancies in Eleanor's supposed family history that, once pointed out, seemed blindingly obvious. I felt a profound sense of shame, a searing humiliation that an experienced attorney like myself, a man who prided himself on his judgment, could have been so utterly, completely duped. My heart ached not just for the money, but for the profound abuse of my trust, the ultimate betrayal of what I thought was family. Eleanor was arrested a few days later, not in my home, but at a post office, where she was attempting to reroute some of my mail. I wasn't there, but Mr. Davies told me she put up no resistance, her charm replaced by a chilling calm. The charges against her were extensive: elder abuse, fraud, grand larceny, across several states. It wasn't just me. There were others, lonely individuals, just like me, who had been ensnared in her elaborate web. Her arrest brought a strange, hollow sense of liberation. The constant anxiety that had unknowingly gnawed at me, the subtle unease I had pushed aside, vanished. The immediate threat was gone, but the emotional wreckage was immense. I spent weeks in a daze, haunted by her false smiles, her feigned tenderness. Every memory of her, once cherished, was now poisoned. My kindness had been a weapon, my longing for family a vulnerability she ruthlessly exploited. I wrestled with anger, not just at her, but at myself. How could I have been so blind, so desperate for connection that I allowed myself to be so thoroughly manipulated? The realization was brutal. My desire for a familial bond had superseded my legal acumen, my common sense. I was not a victim in the sense of being weak. I was a victim of my own yearning, my own open heart. Slowly, painfully, I began to pick through the debris, separating the genuine warmth I had once felt from the cold, calculated deceit. It was a long road ahead, but with Eleanor gone, the path, however scarred, was finally clear. The first step towards healing, I understood, was to truly see the manipulator for what she was, and to forgive myself for simply being human. The healing was a gradual, deliberate process, like rebuilding a fragile structure brick by brick. The shame lingered, a phantom limb of my vulnerability, but it no longer paralyzed me. With Mr. Davies' help, I revised my will. The idea of leaving a legacy to a fabricated family was unthinkable. Instead, I established a scholarship fund for underprivileged law students. The Edward Sterling Scholarship, it would be called. My money, my life's work, would now genuinely benefit others, ethically, without manipulation, fostering integrity in the very profession I had dedicated my life to. It felt right, a cleansing act, transforming a source of pain into a beacon of hope for someone else. This, I realized, was a true legacy, built not on fabricated kinship, but on genuine generosity. My beloved house, with its memories of Sarah and its recent haunting by Eleanor, felt too large, too empty. I decided to move into an assisted living community, a place where genuine companionship was sought and given freely. It was a difficult transition, leaving the familiar comfort of my home, but I yearned for authentic connection, for conversations that weren't laced with ulterior motives. Here, among people who understood the complexities of aging, of loss, I found a different kind of family. We shared stories, laughter, and sometimes quiet tears, without the pretense or the hidden agendas. I learned to discern true connection from manipulation, the subtle tells of genuine empathy versus practiced charm. I still carry the scars of Eleanor's betrayal. They are a part of me, a reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating power of human cruelty. But they no longer define me. I found peace in giving to a cause bigger than myself, in knowing that my life, despite its recent painful detour, could still contribute to something meaningful. I learned that true legacy isn't about bloodlines or elaborate histories. It's about the impact you have, the kindness you extend, and the integrity you uphold. The Charleston air still carried the scent of magnolias, but now, when I breathed it in, it smelled less of loneliness and more of quiet resilience, of a life redefined, and of a hope, truly earned, for a peaceful, honest future.